Mr. Brady Deeprose, how are you, pal?
I am good. I just grabbed a little blanket for my feet because it's quite chilly. I'm in the basement of my mother's house where I currently reside, and it is quite
How
chilly.
metal!
Yeah, yeah, pretty rock and roll.
You get
You
a
know.
blanket. You've got a blanket for your feet because you're living in the basement of your mum's house.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. It's a non-stop thrill ride.
Because I was
Life of
going to
a
say, listen,
lifestyle.
for most folk, 2020 for everyone probably was a write-off. For most folk, 2021 was a bit of a shit show year two, maybe a wee bit at the end of it. But for yourself, other than living in your mum's basement, it must have been. I mean, you played the main stage at Download, then get married, played the main stage at Bloodstock, another bunch of festivals you played, then absolutely smashed Damnation. So let's start with your year. I think it's been a bit better than most folks.
It's been all right. Yeah. It's been a weird, honestly, a weird year of highs and lows, and getting to do the band again after so long, and kind of not really. We didn't think any of the shows were going to happen. Like, I wasn't expecting we were going to do Bloodstock even 2 weeks before it. I was like, well, yeah, they say it's happening, but is it? So there was a lot of cynicism, I think, with the return to live music. Obviously, the download thing was amazing because it came out of nowhere, like 2 weeks before it happened, and was one of those things that a band like us has no right to be doing anyway. So it kind of felt like a bit of a free hit,
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
and it was
let's start with Download then. We'll talk our way through your year then. So Download, as you say, 2 weeks before tell us how that came about.
So from what I gather, we weren't really in the conversation. I think Silosis were meant to be doing it, and
Right, okay.
then either one of them got sick, or I think it might have been the same weekend as Josh's wife was due to give birth, or there was something that meant that they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And Connor, obviously being in Silosis, was part of the conversation, was like, heads up, we've been asked to do this. I don't think we can do it. See what you can do. So I just hit up our agent and was like, I'm aware that a slot on this festival may be coming up very soon. Could you have a word, see what we can do? And then didn't really think about it. And the offer came through, and we were all a bit like, well, it's not going to happen any other year, realistically. We hadn't rehearsed in a year and a half, so we were like, we should probably all get in a room together. And we got in that room, and we were like, should we play a new song for the first time that we've only going to have played together in a room twice? Yeah, why not? Sounds like a great idea. So
Yeah.
we did all of that, and it came together so quickly that the main hurdle for us was getting the time off work, more than anything else. So we rocked up, and it was like we had like our regular crew with us for the most part that could make it over, and we had our driver and like got in the van, and it was like, bloody hell, we're doing it again. Like it's tour, it's first day of tour, and everything was amazing, and we rock up, and it's just a bit of a fairy tale, and there were people to help with loading, and it was just like amazing up until the point where we walked out on stage, and my body just decided I couldn't play guitar and didn't know what I was doing, and was a complete shambles.
Well, listen, from somebody who was in the crowd watching it, I never realised that. So, and you were early enough that I wouldn't be so drunk. But I know the way artists can be, that any minor mistake, it feels like the world's collapsed. So, did you feel otherwise it was a good show? As I say, as a fan watching it, it felt like it was a great show.
Yeah, it's one of those, when we've only really started playing open air stages this year, and it is so unlike anything else, and to the point where obviously Download and Bloodstock were both amazing experiences, and to play to that many people and to play like our kind of music and that early in the day and have that many people turn up and be into it was insane, and like an amazing feeling. But it wasn't the feeling that you get when you play to 200 people in like a sold out 150 cap room with like a proper light show and everything. It was like, I don't know, for me, I got back, and after those first two shows, I felt like Bloodstock was a marked improvement for us in terms of performance. But I got off and I was like, do I still like love doing this? Because it doesn't like feel the same. And I don't like, obviously it was great, but it just didn't fill me with that drive to go, fuck, this is what I want to do. And then we played a sweaty sold out show in Leeds a couple of weeks later, and I was like, no, that's it. That's the one.
It's strange you say that, because I'm going to get to Damnation, but that was my feeling.
This was at Brunel.
Yeah.
We did this weekend, and we rocked up at 9 a.m. for loading, and then sat around for 12 hours until we played at 10 p.m. and everyone was tired and exhausted. And we started, and I was like, nah, this is it. This is fucking wicked. Like,
this is
people
exactly,
going mental.
Yeah, I mean, I know.
It was just,
I know the weekend you're talking about, the kick before and the wave in the chest or something, some crazy.
That's the one, yeah.
Albert and A. Williams. I'm aware of the weekend because I was due to go down myself and sadly didn't make it. But my point I was making was, I saw you at Download and I enjoyed the set. I saw you at Bloodstock and I enjoyed the set. But then when I saw you at Damnation, it was a completely different experience. It was like, and I will ask you about that. So basically what I'm saying is I get what you mean. I get what you mean, that open air feeling, despite the 200,000 fans, despite it's different, that disconnect, especially for a band like Conjurer that is so direct and in your face. I mean, I was going through your Facebook earlier and I saw a wee video that you'd done the sold out tour in 2019 in Glasgow. And I mean, in fact, you're against the fans, you know what I mean? It's like, that's, it's hard to replicate that, whether you're playing Glastonbury or any of these outdoor festivals. It's like, it's just not going to be the same. So yeah, as I say, we'll get to Damnation in a minute, but you've done Download, then you get the offer of Bloodstock. How did that come about? Was that the same situation as it tend to be with Damnation, that all the bands that weren't from the UK just disappeared and then you just get the offer to sort of fill in for someone else?
To be honest with you, one thing I'm learning about myself in the last few years is that my memory is embarrassingly bad. I think we were booked for the previous year of we were booked for the previous year of Bloodstock that got pulled, and we were going to be opening the main stage then. And then when it got pushed back a year, we just got kind of pushed back, but we weren't in the first announcement. So I think we were announced with a bunch of the bands that were like UK-based replacements for American bands, but we'd been kind of booked for that slot for a while and ended up playing a little bit later than we were meant to, which is always appreciated. But yeah, Bloodstock's one of those, like, we've played all three stages at Bloodstock now. Apparently we're only the second band ever to have done that, which
okay. And again, is that a one when how involved are you in the booking process when it comes to, I mean, it's obviously get agents that are just absolutely obsessed with getting that main stage slot. I mean, they'll almost take opening over headlining a tent just to get the main stage. Are you involved in that at all, or do you just kind of go, well, wherever the festival wants us?
A bit of, I feel like up until now, we've been at the point where we've just felt lucky for anyone to ask us to play anything. Like, we've been really stoked about it. And after having played a few shows where we probably weren't the right band for the bill, or the billing wasn't great, or like the experience wasn't amazing, and after having like the weekend we did that Brunel show, and then we did Brighton the next day, and we drove home, and it was 2 really long days, kind of out of nowhere. Like, we didn't get hotels because we were like, we need to save money, and in the end we could have afforded to get hotels both nights basically, and still covered the cost of all of our crew and everything. And sat down at the services at 3 a.m. where everyone was like already feeling ill on day 2 of tour. Like, we should probably start making a concerted effort to put our own health above like saving. Like, we got hotels in Bristol the other night on this tour. It was £100 for 2 rooms, and it was fine. Like, if £100 is the difference between us making or breaking a tour, then we have bigger problems than And like realistically, yeah, we may as well spend it out of our own pocket to get some sleep.
Yeah.
So definitely, we've always been we'll take anything, anywhere. You know, I think we'd only ever cancelled 1 or 2 shows ever. You know, we're down to like play anything, and now it's definitely like, well, we've all got a bit more of a real life, like we're all kind of starting to move out of home despite what it looks like. And like I've got married, Connor and his partner are getting a house, Dan's just got his first flat, so like we all have some more responsibility than we've ever had, and be that kind of emotional, financial, whatever it is, I think just trying to take into account our own personal lives a little bit more than just the band is everything. And like that was the big takeaway from the pandemic for me, is that having a year and a half without, we didn't even rehearse for most of it, and I spent a lot of time in America where I didn't even have a guitar, so I was just so far removed from music. I realized that I'd been making music my one reason. This is like the classic interview cliche. It's like, I live for this, you know, without this band I'd have died and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's really fucking unhealthy, because having this band do the things that we do and the level we do is within our control to an extent, but like it could come crashing down in some sort of global pandemic that's completely out of our hands. And if my entire mental health is tied to being in this band, suddenly it's like, wow, well, what the fuck am I going to do with my life? So I've realized that I don't actually need to play in a band to be happy. I can have a really fulfilling life outside of that, and I have other interests, and I have a relationship that, you know, brings me joy and makes me a better person. Now I get to do this band because I love it, and it means that much more because it's an addition to a more well-rounded life and not just the thing I depend on, you know?
Yeah.
There's less pressure.
Yeah, and I take it with that then comes the beforehand, pre-pandemic, and even years back when you Conjurer were a bit smaller, it's a case of just take what you can get, whatever it is. Doesn't matter how you get there, say, because whereas now you're looking at it not only the mental aspect as you've just explained, but you're probably too modest to say, but Conjurer are just a bigger deal now. So there's no need also to go to the arse end of nowhere and play at 3 p.m. under 3 or 4 bands you've never heard of, because you're not that band anymore.
Yeah, I think the trick is balancing, like, yeah, doing stuff like Download and Bloodstock is cool and is like literally the thing I've dreamed of since I was 10, 11 years old. But the actual, for our band and for what we do and for what we get out of the music, we are gonna have a better experience playing the tent at Download than we are at the main stage, regardless of what that looks like. And we are gonna have a better experience playing any indoor show versus any outdoor show. And like, I still want to do it, and I want to, if we have those opportunities without compromising the music that we make, take them. Like, we're not going to turn down a festival because of that, but I think for what we are trying to do, those indoor spaces just work. But same thing like a band like Amenra, like I would not want to see them on a main stage outdoor, like chuck them in a tent, get the projector going, and you know, let's have some.
Absolutely. Also, I mean, you need to do it to experience it, to understand. I mean, like, there's no place. You might have went out and done the main stage at Download and Bloodstock. Thought, this is absolutely everything I want, because I want to be Axl Rose. I want to see endless people, and that's what matters more than the intensity or being up against the first fan at the barrier. So you need to do those shows to realise how it feels. So, but it's interesting because so many bands, it is really just about even big bands, it's just about how many people they can get in front of, because it's a career. It's that whole, you're going to get more fans at a main stage just by its nature. So even if it's half the crowd's disinterested, if you can get a small portion of them on board, it's better for your career, but it doesn't necessarily mean a better show.
It's the smart move, and like, I definitely see why. But like, if we had a broader appeal, or if we were going for a broader appeal, 100%, that's the move. But I think, especially with the material on this upcoming album, it's definitely further away from the Download main stage than anything we've done before.
I suppose as well, you need to be realistic about this. I mean, it's fair enough with Damnation that fan base is tuned in. I mean, they're plugged into Conjurer and your next album, I guarantee it. But a Judas Priest fan, you're likely not going to win them over on the heaviest.
Depends on how cool they are. Yeah, no, I think that's it. It's about being, like you said, being realistic. And I think that is the one thing about this band specifically, that we tend to fly in the face of all of the advice and all of the rules and all of the way the industry should work. And, you know, people are like, well, you know, you have 12 months from when your album comes out. That's your cycle. Like, if you don't have the momentum, if you don't keep doing it, it's not going to happen. And we're still getting offers for tours off the back of Maya in 2020, like for 2022. Like, we could have booked up next year with like fully international tours, purely based off this first album, which is like insane. Like, obviously fucking incredible.
Honestly,
like, not be happy.
It's like music to my ears when I hear somebody else in the industry, and whether I want to admit it or not, I am in this industry, and I mean, I am part of this machine. But I totally agree. I think some of the stuff that came out in the 1970s with the album cycles and how it would have worked when you were in Rolling Stone and that shit no longer applies. And I still hear it. I heard it this week. Someone saying, oh, they're moving a support band off the package because they're no longer an album cycle from when they would have been. And I'm like, really? You honestly think that a fan wouldn't want to pay their money or see that support band because it's beyond the 12 months? No, it's no different. I mean, it's not now, because that fan might only heard about them 3 weeks ago when they stuck them on Spotify.
Exactly. And like, I get it, but I think if you're creating art that is exciting to you and is challenging and is not just like another cookie cutter record, like, I'm not saying that that's exactly what we're doing, but like, the goal with the music that we make is to make something that is exciting to us. And for me, as if I'm still excited playing our songs, you know, fucking, what is it, 3-4 years since the record came out, then I'm not going to feel bad asking people to pay money to come and watch us play them. But if I'm phoning in a record and putting something out that's boring, then yeah, I get it. Like, you get the initial buzz for a year of new record, new album, all of this stuff. And then when people sit with it and don't get anything more out of it after 6 months' time, that's why you need to put out another record before you can go and tour and get that buzz going. But I think we've just kind of sidestepped the buzz and hype, and we do none of the right things to build on any of that. And it's a almost reductive message of, we're just going to put out the music, and if you like the music, you can come watch us play the music. And it's not any more fancy than that. There's no kind of like story or message or you know, press hype or anything like that. It's just some guys doing some songs, and it's never going to be a main stage festival headliner thing, but the people that are there for it are going to be there for it whether we're in cycle or not. So it's that little trade-off.
There's a freedom to that as well, because I feel like that's the way that we promote Damnation, we organise Damnation. I've never thought or cared about whether a band's get an album cycle or not, whether they're going to get press or not. I never thought about it in 2005. I don't think about it going into 2022. And I have to say, some of the bands that I've booked to headline Damnation, I haven't seen an album in the last fucking 5-6 years, you know what I mean? Like the Electric Wizard even know if they're on album cycle, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, aye, that's it. So that brings us to Damnation. I mean, I have to say, I had a chat with Paul, the co-organiser, after we'd done it. There was 2 sets in particular the day that I just thought, fuck me, man, this band have taken it to like a band I've seen so many times before, have taken it to this whole new level, and it was yourselves and Bosk, but to that I thought like really blew the place away. When I was sitting at the side stage for you guys, I was like, this is fucking like, these guys are, if people felt the way I felt watching it, how do you stop this juggernaut at this point with Conjurer? So talk us through your experience of Damnation this year and that particular set.
I will tell you something very interesting. It's kind of an aside, but very relevant about your experience watching those two bands. Our lighting engineer, Dave, who's this Irish fella that we met over tour, he also did lights for Bosk.
Yes.
And they're the only two sets of the day he did.
So fuck all to do with the music.
just Dave Feeney, he's the absolute man. So Damnation is a interesting one for us because me and Dan went in whatever year you had Revocation and Amenra.
2014.
2014.
Did Bolt throw a headline that year and Cannibal Corpse? Did they ring any bells?
Yeah.
Yep.
So me and Dan went that year as punters and like properly punished Dave from Revocation. There's a horrible photo of him and Dan in the queue for food. Dan is like, "This is the best day of my life," and he's like, "I just want to get some food." Like it's wicked. And we were just really getting into this kind of music. So like everything from doom to sludge to black metal to more extreme metal. We were fans of Black Dahlia Murder and Guitarist and had kind of been expanding our tastes and found this festival that was like, oh shit, this is like all of like a mix of all of the shit that we're listening to anyway. So like we went down and had a great day, and you guys were the first festival to like proper festival to offer us a slot as a band when we were on the EP, and it was again one of those where we had one of the worst sets of our life, I think, playing Damnation the first time. Like, I walked out on stage, smashed the open like strings on the guitar and snapped a string on that first hit. Didn't have a backup guitar, didn't have any spare strings. Spent the entire set trying to work out how to play the songs, which I struggled to play with all the strings intact. And then there were certain bits where Dan had obviously clocked what had gone on and gone, well, I know he's not going to be able to play this, so I'm going to have to play it, which we kind of telepathically worked out, but he didn't know all of my parts. So it was a mixture of me playing it out of tune or him playing it badly. And on top of that, we just played poorly. There are some videos on YouTube of one in particular of Chasm from the EP where we like come in well out of time and it's really out of tune, and it's just like a legitimate like noticeable shambles. You know, like we have a lot. Every band will have gigs where you come off stage, you're like, fucking hell, that was rough. Do you watch a video and you're like, oh yeah, maybe the drummer dropped a stick there, or like I missed one note. But this was like proper like noticeable shambles. And we walked off and we're like, wow, that was all right. Like it was fun. We played worse shows and we made, I think, more money on merch than we'd ever done in a single day.
Yeah.
And we were like, what the fuck is going on? This is insane. And it was like such a great experience. So for us, Damnation's always been this. We got hammered afterwards. Dan and his mate Tim were there, and there's a moment where Dan was sat under a table and people were throwing rubbish into his face, and he was yelling that he was a bin. And his mate Tim looked at him and went, "Wow, you've done everything." It's like, yeah, my mate was a bin for a day. So we're not normally drinkers or partiers, but Damnation's definitely got a special place. So obviously to come back feeling a bit more like a proper band was really nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just a really relaxed day. Like I didn't have to get up at the crack of dawn. We had a really easy drive there. We got in, and it was just I've been really struggling with anxiety in crowds since the pandemic, which is the antithesis of who I am as a person. Like, I am like Mr. Get out there, chat to people. Like that's my whole vibe. It's definitely the only reason I'm still in this band. And then coming back to events like Download and Bloodstock were all right because it was all outside, and went to the Heavy Music Awards, and I was like a sardine in this bar and could not hack it whatsoever. So Damnation was a little bit like that, as it's always, you know, the reason you guys are moving, it's always those hallways between bands are a bit of a nightmare. But like fighting our way in to see Earn, like I lasted 2 songs and I was like, I cannot hack this anymore. We had to get out of there. And there were a few other bands like Dune, who I really wanted to see because I've been really into that record. I had looked at the crowd and I was like, not a chance.
That's a lack of understanding with your AAA pass that gets you upstairs to the balcony.
Yeah, I know. I'd had a few drinks at that point.
You could literally have sat with four empty seats at either side with your feet up and been fine and dandy.
Yeah. I saw Amenra from up there one year. And that was unbelievable. But yeah, I should have done that. But yeah, it was just one of those days where it's like, well, this is like for the set, this is what it's all about. Like playing to, it's like a bigger crowd than we would have any right to play to anyway. But then people that are all there for this kind of music. So it's beneficial for us. It's beneficial for you guys having bands that can, you know, the best thing about Damnation is every band plays to a big crowd. Like it doesn't matter who you clash with. It doesn't matter when you're on. It's just that kind of atmosphere, which is, just a really special thing that I think we are all really thankful to you guys for kind of taking that initial chance on us and then kind of bringing us back. It's, again, this year we made more money on merch than we've ever made at a single show before. Which
I really need to start taking a cut, don't I?
Yeah. But for anyone not interested, we agreed beforehand with Damnation that they were like, oh, we'll sell you merch for you. We'll take a small cut and you just drop it off, pick it up at the end of the day, which all worked down to a hitch, and it was fine until I get a text from Gav the next day going, cracking set yesterday, well done, it was brilliant. We forgot to charge you for the merch money, and we forgot to charge a few other bands, and now I'm out a bunch of money. Can you please send me some money? Which I've not yet done, and I'm going to hold this over him until he books us again.
Get back here. Well, the thing is, right, so you are Mr. Conjurer online? Are you the one that does the social media? No.
It's mainly me, yeah.
Right.
If it's funny, it's me. If it's not, it's Connor.
Well, I don't know if you're joking with this one or not, but he said there's a post that came up on the thing saying, look, guys, had a word with agent. Next time we want a headline Damnation one day.
Yeah, that was me.
So
yeah.
All right, so that's you. So nothing would make me happier. I've said it countless times on the podcast. The British bands that we've had headline Damnation have all been bands that have been booked forever. The Carcass, Electric Wizard. These bands are just 20, 30 years in them. You know what I mean? There's never been a band that's came through and done what likes Bring Me a Horizon or Architects, A Bullet for My Valentine. From our scene being you guys employed to serve Venom Prison. So nothing would make me happier than seeing one of these bands make that, like, really break through and say, look, we can bring 2,000 people to our show, so we can headline an event like Damnation. So was that just a bit of tongue-in-cheek at the time, or do you have a vision of, so look, that is the kind of event where we really could, if it kept, one day we could headline an event like Damnation?
It's a weird one, because we, like, when me and Dan started, we had a couple of goals, which were to record an album, play at the Underworld, and maybe like do a headline tour. Like that was our 3 goals, which we accomplished pretty quickly. And so everything since then has just been a bonus, which has been a really nice way to look at it, because I think it's really easy, and I feel it creeping in sometimes, to expect things and to see other bands doing X, Y, and Z and go, fucking hell, why aren't we doing that? Or why haven't we? And like a band like Employed to Serve, who are really good friends of ours, and I see them, they got the Guitarist tour, and I was like, fuck, why didn't we get the Guitarist tour? And I'm like, well, they've put out like 4 or 5 records and have been on a big label for ages and have toured more and have got far more experience. And like all of these legitimate reasons why a band grows and how a band grows and does all these things. And you have to kind of check yourself sometimes, or I certainly do. And I'm like, yeah, maybe they do actually fucking deserve that, you know, and like, you know, they've done the work and they've got the starts, and it's objectively brilliant seeing any British band or, you know, any band really kind of like growing and getting out there, especially when, you know, they're good fucking people as well. That's always the cherry on top.
Yeah.
I think for us, what we've been able to do with one record has so far exceeded any single person's expectations. Like there was, like I had to write down the other day for, we started like work with the PR company on the next record, just like write down a list of all the stuff you've done. So I had to just sit down and do it. And I was like, oh, we played Bloodstock 3 times and Download twice, both including the main stage, Damnation twice. You know, all of these tours, toured with so many of our favourite bands, played so many iconic venues, done the US twice. Like all of these things off the back of one record is utterly insane. And so like what I imagine moving forwards, I think it's going to be like a one of those graphs where there's steep amounts of growth for the first record, and then it's going to carry on growing, but I think it's going to tail off a little bit. I think it's that same with anything. The gulf between 0 and 90% is massive, and the gulf between 90% and 100 is just as big.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of, you know, quick growth, and then it's kind of more steady. So I think if we continue to write good music and put out good records, and as someone who doesn't do much of the writing, it's quite easy to say that, you know, I think there is a ceiling for music that is as heavy as what we do, but if it continues to be approachable in the way that it is, like headlining a Damnation, I think is something that could be viable. I think like a headline second stage at Bloodstock, headline the small tent at Download. Like, I think that's the ceiling for a band that plays music this heavy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very healthy way to think about it as well. It's like, I know the ceiling for Damnation. I mean, who knows? Maybe next year I'm going to find out the rough way of what that ceiling was. It's exactly Leeds as well, that ceiling was. None of this arena chat. So
specific venue actually is the ceiling. Interesting.
I know. So we'll see what the situation is. But that is a healthy way to think, because there is no point being Damnation and the music we do and saying we want to be Bloodstock, unless you're going to accept that you are going to book Lamb of God and Arch Enemy and a Saxon, because that's the only way you're going to get there. You're just not going to do it with Carcass, the Electric Wizard. So that is a healthy way to think about it as a band. So I mean, great year for you guys, but then next year looks even better. I mean, like, you guys, I mean, you've fucking Brutal Assault, Hellfest, back to Arctangent. There's a European tour announced with Celeste. So let's start with some of these.
When's this going live? This
so probably Wednesday. So when are we? There's now Sunday night. Probably Wednesday.
Yeah, I think I've got an announcement that's happening between now and then that I can tell you technically early, but hold on. Let me just check the announcement date. Wednesday, 1st of December at 4 p.m. Is this going out before that?
It would be going out, but I can hold it back.
Okay. Yeah, fuck it. I mean, I don't care. Just put it out whenever. We're playing Summer Breeze Festival in Germany.
Another.
All of your German fans right now better be blowing up Summer Breeze and exposing them for leaking it.
If I've got a German fan that listens to this podcast, it's just somebody I know here that's over there on holiday.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, it's insane next year.
Aye. So, like, Hellfest is my obsession. So, you guys haven't done Hellfest before, have you?
No. Dan and Connor went to Hellfest in 2013 or 2014, and there is an iconic photo of Dan that got brought up in the group chat the other day. Off his face, stood on a table in one of the beer tents, giving it that with a bunch of people around him who are not there for his bullshit. It is like so not who Dan Nightingale is as a person, but when Party Dan comes out,
Because he's either a bin or he's on top of a table somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Hellfest, tell me about that one in particular. Is that just the timing was good and your agent man James Spence was managed to nail it, or was it one you were going after, or how did that one come about?
So we have worked with a couple of guys in France. So Thibaut, who manages Regardez, who I'm sure you've dealt with in terms of them playing. So I brought Regardez over to do 4 or 5 shows, I want to say 2015, that we supported them on.
2015 or 2016, I checked on you again before I do these. I sit and get a bit of a deep dive in people's past. So I saw them. So yes.
And then we kind of stayed in touch, and he was like, "Thank you for sorting this out. If there's ever anything I can do, let me know." And we also work with the Voulez-Vous Dance people, and I don't know their names, but it's a really cool promotions company name. And I think it was Thibaut who knows the guys at Hellfest and kind of got them onto us. And then obviously James has worked with them with his previous bands. And that was just one that James got us an offer for. And we were like, well, yeah, like whatever the offer is, like, yeah.
The answer's yes. It's you know what? It's the Glastonbury size version of Damnation, because those tents they're always busy. Like you go there in the morning and there's fucking 12,000 people packed into the Doom tent.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's the genius of it is the same genius of Damnation Festival, or in Leeds at least, is sell X thousand tickets and have every stage be a percentage of those number of tickets, and then you're just forced to play to a big crowd. And again, I've not been to Hellfest, but it kind of feels like one of those where it's sensory overload. There's so much on that you can just miss 5 of your favourite bands and still have a great time.
And it's supercharged for next year. I mean, I've done the double weekends and 4 days over one, and it's like every single band. I've got fucking Merciful Fate playing the 6th end. I mean, it's like it's pretty.
It's honestly, it's a bit much.
It's probably, and the thing is, well, you can go to Hellfest if you're a music fan like I am. The 2 main stages, you'll never see them because you're not interested in seeing Disturbed or Papa Roach or whatever. And it's great that the bands are there. That's why they can sell so many tickets. But you can.
If Papa Roach could guarantee they were playing Fest in full, I would be front and centre. But other than that,
you're done. So I mean, it's going to be when you guys play that. You playing one of the tents. You play the Valley.
Yeah, I think we're playing the little baby stage, whatever the bottom one is.
There is no baby stage. They're all fucking huge. So, there'll be 10, 15,000 people absolutely crushed into that. Myself
horrifying.
Included.
I don't want to be around 10 to 15,000 people, to be honest. I can't hack it. I just try to see what stage we are actually playing. It's one of the... Fucking hell, it's too many bands. We are playing the Temple.
Oh, and Temple, right, okay. Because normally they've got a death. So what I've got is 2 huge big tents side by side, and that tends to be death metal, black metal, and I've got one, the Valley, that tends to be more stone or doom. But I assumed you'd be in. But they're all of similar size. Those tents anyway. They're fucking huge. You're going to be, and from my understanding, the bands are very well looked after as well. So I'll be a good weekend. And then you've got Brutal Assault as well, but another cracking weekend for you. Art Tangent, you've got a great relationship with the guys for Art Tangent.
Yeah,
so that one.
I love Art Tangent. It's Damnation and Art Tangent are the 2 festivals where it like feels like we're actually playing to our crowd and we're not playing to a bunch of people who are waiting to see other bands. In terms of a festival, which is really cool. And like as a punter, they're the 2 where I'm going and I'm like, oh, okay, so there's actually all the bands I really want to see are here. And like, I can have a great time at Download or Bloodstock, but I'm hanging out, chatting to my friends and watching a couple of bands. And whereas at, I guess, Damnation as well, just purely because it's it's one day of debauchery. But like at Art Tangent, I'm like hanging out and chatting, but there's also 15 bands I want to see over a couple of days, as opposed to just the pure debauchery of their Damnation.
There's something that makes that's what's so good about Damnation as well. And the reason why we've kept it that strict one day for that festival is it's just a firework in a bin for 12 hours. It's just chaos. And every fan says the same. Next year I'm going to go and not be passed out the terrace by fucking people will make their lives to see Bolt Thrower play and they fell asleep.
I did the same thing. I cycled. I was like, right, well, we're going to get there at midday so we can get the merch in before doors. So the world is my oyster. I'm going to see that band and that band and that band. And I watched Boss Kelloid, who were great. And I watched a bit of Vern. And I saw a little bit of Bosk from side stage while we were like getting ready to go in. And then played and then was exhausted and then got really drunk really quickly, and I don't think I saw anyone else. And it was just, but I saw loads of my friends and had a wonderful time that was very much needed, and that was good enough for me. And I regret missing bands, but I will do that for the rest of my life, and I'll just go see them when they play.
If there's anybody who's going to catch all those bands 10 times more in the next year, it'll be yourself. I mean, just these festivals we're mentioning, so many of the bands there. The reason I was bringing up Hellfest and for you guys getting on is because there's a lot of really amazing British talent, like you got dragged into some like Venom Prison, who just never seem to get a crack at Hellfest. You get some bands, Employed to Serve, Conan, who do seem to get a crack at it. Now, I'd love to pick the brains of some of the guys at Hellfest. What makes some of the UK bands stand out and give them that chance, yet other ones never seem to get it. But as you say, there seems to be some sort of relationship with guys that you know as well, and a good agent that's helped with that.
From what I gather about Europe, so we did this thing called ESNS, it's some series of letters, and it's like a European showcase festival thing. So we went out to the Netherlands and just got told by James, was like, I booked you for this thing, I'm going to be there. It's potentially going to be a crappy show, but is a really cool thing to do. So you basically play in front of all of the promoters and like industry people of Europe, and they all come to this festival to check you out. And it's almost like a bit of an audition.
Yeah. So
we were like, cool, like we'll do it. Like if you're saying this is the thing to do, and like you've done it before, and you know what the vibe is, cool. Like we'll do it. We'll have a boys' weekend, and we rock up to this. Looks like a fucking army base camp in the middle of the night. The night before was the night before the show? Is it? Either way, rock up there, and we go to this huge like constructed building. It kind of looks like a castle. And like they log us in and they give us free ESNS t-shirts, and we're just like, cool. And they're like, oh yeah, you're on the boat tonight. And we're like, what? And we go down to this lake or canal or something, and there are these huge boats, and we had like cabins for the night. So they're like proper like cabins. I don't know, like at a porthole and everything. So we like get into our cabins and we go into the main fort area, and there's a bar with like ping pong tables and cheap wine, and we're just like playing table tennis and drinking cheap wine, and like, what the fuck is this? And we go into the festival, and we played to like a pretty much a full room, and it was weird because it was music fans, but not like dirty moshers. So like people were into it, but there was no vibe. Kind of, it was a weird.
There was no mosh pit, no clapping. That there's a gentle applause at the end.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was like just like a weird thing, but from what I gather, that is a good way to get on the radar of European promoters and European festivals. And so we did that, and I haven't caught up with James specifically on kind of like looking at that as a strategy, but we have now got a lot of offers for European festivals. We've worked with a bunch of European promoters, and you know, through James's contacts, through Brother Tomasi, through the other Atonal roster, they have a set of promoters that they use in certain areas. So same as the UK, like we now have certain people that we use in certain areas. And yeah, I think it's just building that network slowly, and definitely the weakest area for us as a band has been Europe. And having, you know, the Car Bomb tour in 2020 was going to like be our first big venture out into Europe, which got cancelled after 5 shows because of COVID. So now for us, Celeste next year is like that chance for us to finally go out and play in all of these countries we've never been to, and really kind of get a foothold in there. So like from our perspective, you know, the UK is obviously brilliant, but I'm not trying to go out and play 50 shows in the UK next year.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, like, there's no other band that I'm aware of that done Bloodstock, Download, and Damnation. So you've got Art Tangent locked in for next year. So Damnation's not going to offer Conjurer next year. I doubt that. The festivals don't rebook, or don't tend to rebook year in year. So is next year you're like, okay, well, we kind of smashed the UK just there. I mean, you had that Bad Pond one, you done the one in Leeds, you played a lot of shows, done the Tumblewolf tour. So is next year really a big focus on Europe?
Yeah, I think we're definitely doing that Celeste tour in Europe. We, I think, are going to try and do some shows between festivals in Europe. And then there's another tour offer which is in the works, which if that comes off is going to be silly, again for Europe. And then I imagine we will do a headline tour that will be UK and Europe for the new record, which is going to come out next year. We have a pretty solid release date now. Stan trying to call me. Brilliant.
Do not be telling them about Summer Breeze before Wednesday.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, if there's one thing you do, bloody hell. Yeah. But yeah, absolutely. Europe is definitely, having now signed to Nuclear Blast, based in Germany, having that kind of support and that kind of foothold there. It's just a territory that's been really hard to kind of break out into, and the kind of show we're trying to bring now, like bringing our own front of house and lighting engineer, and trying to go and play the underground circuit in Europe and bring that level of production is just really difficult and costly. So we're kind of really lucky that like the Celeste tour is going to be really cool, and you know, the stuff that we are doing now, and this is kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about kind of like taking any start and doing anything we can. We're really trying to be selective in what we do now, so that we can go, okay, we will do these shows because we know we can bring the full Conjurer performance, and we'll be well rested, we'll have our crew and our production, and we can make it worth people's time and kind of justify the investment and the investment of like both time and money that people have put into our band. And like, as a fan, if you've been a fan of Maya since it came out and you're in Slovakia, your one chance to see us is going to be on this Celeste tour. I think we play Slovakia, but I don't then want to turn up.
You fucked that up if you're not playing Slovakia.
All your Slovakian fans are going to be furious. It's Slovakia or Slovenia, one of the Slovs.
One of the S's.
Yeah, one of them. I do need to know that. But we're going to turn up there, and like, if we're doing what we're doing on Car Bomb and in a van following a bus, doing stupid overnight drives every day, getting really unwell, we're not giving the people that have actually come out to see us. That's, for us, it's show 400. For them, it's the first time they've come to see this band that they like. And
absolutely,
I think it's really important to kind of remember that and remember that, yeah, okay, so you've rocked up at X venue and there's 5 people there and you're in the middle of a tour and you're knackered and you're like, oh, you know, what's the point? I don't want to go out and play tonight. But like 3 of those 5 people could be your biggest fans and this is like the highlight of their month, and they've you know, like it's, or even they could just be people that have never heard of your band and go, oh, that's cool. Like it is not about, it's finding that balance between doing it for yourself and doing it for your own happiness and your own mental health versus people are invested in what we're doing, and so we owe it to them to not be a fucking shambles.
In terms of Celeste, because promoters promoters and agents have a weird way of looking at almost everything, and you look at Celeste, look, there's just no arguing about it. You are a bigger band than Celeste in the UK. Celeste would not have the slot you had at Damnation. They would not go on the main stage at Bloodstock. They would not go on the main stage at Download, and they wouldn't sell out the tour that you sold out in 2019. But they might have a much bigger profile in Europe. Now, so is there a conversation there when it comes to London? Because you guys need to swallow the fact that you're going to play under a band you're bigger in London. It's just fact. So is that a conversation that's had, or was there ever at a point where the agent goes, it's not a good look, or you just go, look, at the end of the day, it's the one bit you take for the rest of Europe?
Yeah, basically. I mean, like, we were originally, when this tour was floated the other year, it was like 4 UK shows, including like, it was like Nottingham, London, Glasgow, Manchester, something like that. And we're like, it is a much worse look for us supporting a band at like the Rock City Underground, which I think what that venue was going to be, that we literally sold out. Yeah, and we had another offer for a tour that was, again, Europe, like 200-300 cap venues, and then it was like supporting at Boston Music Rooms, and then they were like, oh yeah, you might not even be main support, and it's like, well,
we sold that out.
Yeah, it's not an ego thing at that point. It is, we are building, like, we're trying to build on what we do, and like for someone like James, who's our booking agent, who his job is to get us into, I'm not going to say bigger and bigger venues, but appropriately sized venues that we can either sell out or sell most of the tickets to ensure that we can give the best show to the people that want to see us. Everyone that actually wants to see us can come and see us, and we can make enough money to cover the costs to up the production on every tour. That's basically the reason why we do bigger and bigger shows, because as I've already said, playing to 10,000 people is less of a vibe than playing to 200 people in a sweatbox. So we're definitely trying to grow it, but grow it at a scalable level that allows the band to carry on doing what it does.
Yeah.
So with all that said, if we then go and support bands like European bands in small venues in the UK that are venues that we could sell out ourselves, or venues that we'd be looking to headline on the next tour, like you said, it's not a great look, but it's more about preserving the value and kind of like upping the value of the band. On this Celeste tour, Celeste are significantly bigger than us in everywhere outside of the UK. Maybe not, probably not in the US, but certainly across Europe. So what we may, and realistically, like, we would be headlining the Dome, or I want to do the Underworld on the next headline tour, just purely for the fact that that venue means a lot to us. But supporting Celeste at the Dome, yeah, that's a venue that we probably would be headlining ourselves. But between the two of us, we should sell that out, and having the one UK show sold out is a good look, and having being able to get out into all of these parts of Europe we've never hit with a band that has a pull there on while we're going to be ramping up for this record coming out, and it's an ideal opportunity for us, and I think that we will bring value to that tour package kind of overall. I think we have a better deal out of it than Celeste, realistically, but I am stoked that they wanted us to do it.
Yeah, I mean, and I say this is no disrespect to Celeste. I mean, I booked him, I brought him across for France to play Mon Event. That's how much I think about that band. But sometimes you just need to look at the numbers and you say, look, that was probably a conversation. It would have been strange if you'd done 6 dates in the UK, and as you say, you were supporting Celeste in venues that you were headlining yourself, and it makes it difficult. Because then it makes James's job difficult, because a guy like me is going to come back the next time and say, why would I pay X amount for Conjurer when I know for a fact they just done that in that room? And as an artist, you might not even think like that, but that's definitely how agents, managers and promoters are thinking.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely a lot more cynical than the way the bands are looking at it. But like that Tabwolf tour we just did, it was not the right band for us to go out and support. The shows were bigger than what we would be headlining. But it was like not our crowd. It was like a hard rock audience. We did that because I'm a fucking massive Tabwolf fan, and I like really wanted to do it. They were fans of us, and we were like, 3 shows, fuck it, like it'll be great. It was like not a very good offer, and we just about broke even across the 3 shows, but like we had a really good time, and we got to play some shows that were cool, see some cool people, and like kind of get a few more miles under our belt before the end of the year. So it was like things like that I think are fine as like one-offs. And I think if it was, I'm trying to think of a heavy band that are like a similar size to us in the UK, the fact that it was a band that is completely different genre to us was the reason that made sense to do. And realistically, outside of a few people, everyone that saw us was a potential new fan. Now, whether they were into it or not, I don't know. But like, we weren't. It's not like us, Palm Reader and Employed to Serve, going out and doing a triple headliner, rotating headliner every night, selling out 700 cap venue in London and 300 caps nationally, and playing to the same 700 and 300 people that all 3 bands have been playing to for the last 10 years. Like,
it's weird you using that way of explaining it. I had the exact same conversation last night with someone who wasn't a big Ministry fan, and it was a bit like Ministry for Damnation. I said, but there was no point booking Converge that works for Damnation fans and then booking another band that said, like, just like Dillinger Escape Plan, if they were still doing. There's no point in booking Dillinger Escape Plan and Converge, because you're just getting the same fan twice over. You're trying to move to an arena, you need people that might otherwise think like, I didn't know Damnation existed, and I certainly wasn't interested in the lineup, but I do love Ministry, and I'm willing to go to that. And I said that this kind of makes my point, because you're excited about Converge, but there will definitely be someone else that's excited about Ministry and has no interest in seeing Converge.
Literally, I'm the other way around. Like Converge are like one of my favourite bands. So like that 100%, I'm in it for that and a few other bands. I never really listened to Ministry. I know from what they are, it's not my kind of vibe. But it's like, cool. I'll watch someone else. Or like I'll go and see. Means I have less stuff to worry about for like all the bands I do.
Especially Damnation, when it's full of clashes anyway. But that is a weird train of thought, because you're totally right. There's no point just saying, let's go Conjurer and 3 other bands that are exactly the same, and we're reaching no new fans, but we're stoking our own egos a wee bit because we're always playing to full rooms. But it's still the same full rooms. Are going to do that if you were on that show yourself or not. You know what I mean? It's like so that's that's an example, because that's exactly the conversation I had with a friend last night about the whole why Ministry are there. Ministry being a great band as well, but it's a bit different for Damnation. That's our sort of attempt to maybe tap into the bloodstock market and say the kind of fan that would go to that might not otherwise be interested. Damnation is still viewed by the wider metal public as quite an extreme elitist, like, I mean, fucking Joe Quayle played, and I mean, it's not that. If you can go through Damnation and not really have a blast beat or somebody screaming at your face the whole day, I mean, if you want, if you know about
if you're a coward.
But ultimately, people just see Carcass and Bloodbath, and they're like, oh my god, it's a Conjurer. People are just going to be screaming at me. So let's wrap a bow around Europe then. Roskilde, you were booked for it. Yeah, it was announced, and then did the pool, was that offer gone?
I have no idea. They offered us the best offer we've ever received for anything ever.
This is your thing. The guy Nathrak said the exact same thing. The most we've ever been paid was Roskilde, but he did say with a wee asterisk, that's basically a payment to you and everything's your responsibility. Like,
yeah, pretty much. But like everything's our responsibility for everything we do anyway. So, yeah, we're not trying to fly anyone out from the US. So yeah, it was like the dream offer, and it was like supporting Taylor Swift and someone else. Like it was just like
Tyler the Creator and Taylor Swift for the two.
Yeah, it was sick. We were well into it, and I will follow it with James because we're still down to do it, but I just don't think they are wanting to take as many chances in the post-pandemic realm, which again, I am not begrudged of anyone scaling things back post-pandemic, because at the end of the day, I would much rather people play it safe for a couple of years and ensure that whatever event they're doing or whatever thing they're running carries on.
Yeah.
Oh, bless you. Bless you. I bless myself, man. Bless me. Yeah, I'd much rather that than people keep going hell for leather and end up folding. You know, it's just not.
Yeah,
not
and the interest was there. I mean, the same thing happened to Svalbard when I was talking to either Hayden or Serena, that they had an offer for Roskilde that disappeared, and then I think they've actually been offered that again. So hopefully that does happen for you. But I'm sure if it doesn't happen for next year, it'll be something you'll get in future. But we're in the same position in terms. I mean, we had a bunch of bands that were for the 2019 into 2020 that just. We're not going to offer again the American bands to come back because one, we need everybody to be an absolute banker. It's like that. I want to roll the dice with Dysrhythmia and Behold the Octopus when I'm about like, and maybe need bands that are going to sell a few more tickets in this arena. And also, you need to freshen up. You need to freshen up the lineup. You can't just like here's the same lineup you've had for 2 years as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, did you have Iris booked?
Yes, and still do.
Still booked.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, they're a really cool one. They when we were signing to Nuclear Blast, Monty was saying that he's got this new band that loved our record and the sound of our record, so they flew out from the US to record with Lewis at the ranch because of the sound on Maya, and that was Iris. And yeah, they've seemingly. People are really into it.
I feel really sorry for them because they're one of those bands that came out the traps like a rocket. I mean, it was instant. Like the Krang article, the Metal Hammer, the 50,000 people on Facebook. It was like they had that big Gojira Mastodon sound that obviously went over well with a lot of fans. And it looked like we had our UK debut show, so it was a good one for us too. And then it all went to shit, basically. So they were sitting there with this incredible album that they couldn't deliver to anyone. They were just kind of sitting there and hoping that. And I feel like that for a lot of bands that kind of were doing. I mean, Pupil Slicer being the British equivalent to that, having mirrors that come out and be like, everybody and their granny wanted to book Pupil Slicer for last year or this year's events. And like, are all those offers they're in art tangent, but it's unlikely I'm going to find a slot for them at Damnation. Will they get offered for Bloodstock, etc.? It's like it's a shame when you're a band like that. You know that was going to happen, and then I'm sure it will do somewhere down the line. But you knew that 2021 was maybe a great year for you, and it wasn't.
I think that's the really lucky thing that we've dealt with. Like going into the pandemic, the best place to be as a band was end of cycle. And that's exactly where we were. Like, as far as we were concerned, like that Car Bomb tour was going to be the end of the Maya cycle. And so we were working on the new record and kind of like got to record that. And all the way through the pandemic, have been dealing with that. Now that we're coming out of it, like who fucking knows what's happening. But like into next year, we're able to put out a new record. Whereas there are so many bands that dropped a record, then had to have a year and a half off. And you know, we've talked about that momentum going. I think there's a difference between putting a record out and still touring it 2 years later, and then putting a record out and then having a year and a half of nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
For bands like Loathe putting their record out just as it was all kind of kicking off, and there's a bunch of others, and like that, I'm just really thankful that we weren't in that position. And there's a band called Baylor that are really good friends of ours, recorded their album late 2019 and then put it out 2 weeks ago, and like they were saying, they were sat on this record for so long and were beyond frustrated, but have been able to put it out now and like get some offers in. They played Bloodstock, and you know they've actually been able to do something with it. And I'm like, I'd much rather have been sat on an album for 2 years and then put it out than have just dropped it at that time.
Yeah, because there's nothing to do with it. I mean, again, whether we agree with the cycle, this is when people are real. It's like when you can, if you've got a promoter or a manager or an agent or anybody's interested in you because they're into it right here, right now.
Yeah.
In a year's time, and another 52 bands have basically been offered up, and you've got into them right here, right now, and then your attention just been taken away. It's got nothing to do with it. Oh, that was that album. It's like you had something at that moment that someone was really into, and you could have built on it. You could have got that show. You could have sold that merch. You could have got that fan, and it never happened for you. And then so Iris is a good example. They're back with us for Manchester. So we'll see if they do continue.
Have you finished the lineup for Manchester?
It's pretty much. There's a few moving parts because like stage times as such. I mean, like how early are we going to start, how late are we going to finish? That could open up an extra slot, things like that. But largely there is, because there's a lot of big tours that we've got, and there's tour supports for them. And we've got too many bands basically. We've got at one point we're getting offered fucking amazing bands. You're like, I can't even find a slot anywhere for this band to play. So
you had any offers where you've considered dropping someone you've already booked? I've
never done that. The only I'm as a person, I'm pretty loyal to the offers, and it offends me when agents don't reciprocate when something's agreed, and then suddenly when they get offered a better tour, a better, like, you get ditched quickly, but we don't do that to the bands. So no, I haven't, and I think you need to, once you say you're going to do something, like you do it. I mean, definitely on top of like the whole Dysrhythmia thing, like that's, I don't even know if they're even touring next year, but there was no promise of, oh, by the way, if there's a pandemic hits, we're just going to hold all these slots. I mean, because the truth of the matter is, we were trying to sell to 3,000 people, we're now trying to sell to 6,000. Some of those slots need to become bands that cost 10 times more, never mind being 10 times bigger. They're like the opening bands. Fuck, man, you put our band in it, our main stage is going to take 6,000 fans. I mean, that opening band needs to bring some fans.
I booked it's such a weird thing that I've never really talked about before, but it's so relevant to your interests. I booked a stage at Mammothfest
right?
1 year.
Yeah.
And we put on, it was Amenra headlining, and then Patrick Walker from 40 Watt Sun doing a solo set, and then just a bunch of fucking sick UK bands. So I had like Ren, Ern, I think played, Hass Seagold, who are now just called Hast, Salem, like just like a bunch of really cool doom stoner bands, and lost a shitload of money purely off the back of the Amenra fee, which was, you know, I mean, you've booked them, so you know what they're asking for. And I had a conversation with the owner at the time, and he was like, look, I need you to, I was just some fucking kid that was in Conjurer and like knew a bunch of mates' bands and put together what was musically, objectively, for my taste, a fucking great lineup of really cool, interesting bands.
Yeah.
But they were like, well, we need you to guarantee that Amenra are going to sell out this festival if you, like, we want to pay this money, but it's most of the budget. And I'm like, I'm not going to guarantee that. I have a fucking idea. Like, I'm just like some kid. You've asked me to help. Like, I've put together a lineup. Like, you want to book it, cool, but like, you know, do or don't, like, whatever, man. And did
you take the process through to actually book the band, or were they booking the band and you were just basically programming it?
Yeah, so I programmed it, and then they dealt with, I
Hayden.
think, Patrick Walker and Amenra, and then I just contacted all the other bands again were basically my mates.
Hayden Britland is not an agent you want to go unless you know your shit. Know what I mean? Because he's fucking sitting there waiting. he will. I don't want to laugh at. I mean, is it still a thing? Mammothfest?
No, absolutely went. I think that was the last year, and it completely went down the pan.
Didn't it die twice? Didn't they have it way back when they had Entombed one year, and then it maybe when you were still in nappies, and it was like... He always came across, I mean, I don't know the guy personally, but I kind of follow, I've got an interest in these things about the UK, and he always seemed like a genuinely decent guy, but that doesn't matter a fuck when you're selling tickets.
I think I got on with him well. I think he had like a bunch of like personal issues, and kind of his like personal life went off the rails, and then the festival kind of followed suit. So it's like one of those where I'm like, I think the way that they went about it, like the expectation was that every band apart from the top two played for free on our day, and like it was one of those. I was like, I'm not gonna ask bands that I care about to play for free, and so like we agreed it. I spoke to them, and they were like, cool, so we'll pay. It was like £50 to all the bands that were like the openers, and I messaged people. I was like, hey, if you want to play it, I'd love you to play it. This is the lineup. I think it's gonna be really cool. This is the budget. I know it's nothing, so like please do not feel bad in turning me down. I'm asking you because I like your band and I'd love you to play. And like most of the people were like, cool, it's, you know, obviously not enough money for us to do it, but we'll do it because we want to come get involved. And it was like that kind of very upfront, open atmosphere. But I think the guys there were struggling with the fact that they then spent so much money on these bigger bands that it just wasn't viable. But I do remember one of the bands being told that their driver had to buy a ticket if he wanted to come in for the day.
I mean, it's stuff like that. It's that. This is the problem. I mean, don't get me wrong. Listen, I get crew lists through for some bands that are fucking 13 people deep, and I'm like, and then they show up the day and it's about like, oh, can you help us load? I'm like, mate, you've got more crew than Carcass. You can load
it. More crew than we have.
Yeah, you've got more crew than the festival. It's like but you swallow it, didn't you? Some people in this scene as well. Like, that's their. You know what? A lot of bands that play Damnation get paid less than a wedding cover band. I mean, if you want to do it for money, go be a wedding cover band. And ultimately, very few people are getting rich.
We've considered it. That is such an interesting thing, though. Like festivals, when you are a band like us, that is like getting offered good slots, but still kind of have some imposter syndrome. It's like we'll get like the advance through for a festival, and it'll say like, name your crew, and we're like, are we allowed? Like, are they gonna come back and tell us no? So like, we'll put in for Download and Bloodstock, like we put in our legit crew, and then in like my wife down as a driver, because technically we did the festival in 3 cars, didn't even rent a van or anything like that. So like my wife was down as a driver, and then Connor's girlfriend was down as a merch coordinator, because technically she did carry all the merch in. But like, God, are we awful? Are we taking the piss? And then I was looking at it, I was like, fuck no, like, what are they expecting? Are they expecting like my wife to buy a ticket to go to the festival that I'm playing? Like, no, of course they're fucking not. Like, we gave our like couple of guestless spots to our parents, so it was like, no, I think these are perfectly reasonable. If we're starting to take the piss and just bring mates along to like have a laugh, then like, cool, maybe buy a ticket. But like, it is a weird position to be in as a smaller band playing big events.
There's so much of it's weird. See, when you boil it all down, like what is a legitimate rider at what stage? I mean, what is a legitimate rider? No one has a fucking clue, right? No one. And from promoter to band to manager to agent, everyone is just fucking guessing, right? So you get
our rule of thumb is put in what would be when you walked into a venue and went, fuck me, this is class. put that down and then hope they do their best.
Because what you'll get, like, because I've done this a long time now, you'll get a fucking band that costs you 40 grand, and they're coming in and saying, the riders, I don't know, probably cost you 200. Or they say, mate, if you can get this type of cheese, that'd be great, but we'll love it. And then you get a band that costs you £100 and they give you a £500 rider. You're like, mate, you're just fucking making this up as you go along. And it's...
So, some background for the listeners. As a band going to Damnation Festival, they paid us a very good and reasonable fee. We rock up to a shared dressing room, and I was fucking furious at that point. I had to share a dressing room with John from Conan. God, I could hear his northern twang from a mile away. It was horrible.
Where were you using Arc 6? Are you in the big one at the end?
Yeah, full of bloody other bands. Couldn't believe it. It was furious. We go in, and there's what food was there on offer? There was crisps. There was celebrations. Some fruit. I had 2 tiny bananas before we played. It was like hell. And then a bunch of shared spirits, that was. And there was the little sign saying, these are for everyone. So I couldn't even neck a bottle of vodka, as I normally do before we go on stage. And it was just,
How big was that bottle of gin, though? That was a big ass bottle.
That was a big... And then, like, one of the really, really fat Coke Zero bottles, you know, the ones that look unhealthy because they're so, like, extra big, one of those. So I had couple of little vodka. But, okay, genuine criticism. The only cups that we had were tiny.
Right.
So I wanted, like, a pint-sized plastic cup or even some reusable cups. I had to have tiny little vodka Cokes instead of a big one. So for next time, if you could sort that out, that'd be the cups were too small.
A tour manager's brought that up to us. One of the guys goes, listen, the cups are too small, right? And I'm a bit like, right, well, what size of the cups? He goes, well, just these wee. And he goes, there's a fucking bar downstairs now. I get the fact, right? You're a tour manager. It's your job to make my life difficult, but you could just walk to the bar. It would take less effort to come out and find me and ask them for 10 pint glasses. They will give you 10. And if you back up with fucking 10 pint glasses.
It'd take less effort to just give us the proper size cups in the plastic, wouldn't it? Come on.
So what you're saying is you showed up, you had a dressing room, which was heated, you had sweets, crisps, all sorts of spirits, your waters, your beers, food tokens. Did you even bother your ass going to get a meal?
Yeah, that was okay. So it was difficult to work out where we could get meals from. That was genuinely so. I don't think any of us knew. So our photographer used them, and he went down to the noodle bar.
Yeah,
and they were like, "Yeah, you can have whatever you want with this, up to the value of £7."
Which I think is the menu.
Yeah, well, no, what he wanted was £9. He's like, I'm not paying an extra £2 of my own money. So we got these noodles that he fucking hated and sat there in the dressing room complaining and eating them. And I was like, mate, it was
these noodles are supposed to have chicken and I'm just eating them dry. Fuck Damnation.
It was a proper, like, your fault, your problem kind of situation. But yeah, no, I think I just ate a load of... I didn't really eat much, actually, all day, so we had to stop and get food on the way home because I drank quite a lot and didn't eat anything. I've got 4 tokens, actually, in my wallet upstairs, food tokens. Can I redeem them next year?
You can bring it in Manchester. I'm here to see Iris and Converse and I want my dinner.
Yeah, I want last year's dinner. I was done out of it.
That's funny because that was that's another thing with that venue as well. There's no real... We used to have a deli Kate outside who just provide for all the bands, and it was very simple. You just go out and get your dinner and your coffee. Whereas, and they said, well, you're going to need to put some sort of monetary value in them. I said, well, okay, well, what does a main meal cost? He said, £7. I said, okay, £7 fine, if for everyone except the Conjurer photographer.
Yeah, Joe Guppy gets a solid £9.50. Next time, if you could stick 1 meal token and then cut another one in half and tape it on for him so he can go and get his 1.5.
I wonder if he just, well, considering you've still got 4 in your wallet, he could have just went down and had £14 worth. I mean, I don't know why I haven't explained this to you, Brady.
Yeah, I won't lie. I got pretty drunk after we played to the point where most of my token maths had gone out the window. But speaking of photography, this is completely unrelated, but I just want to shout out my boy. Joe is now on an arena tour photographing the Offspring.
Oh, is he? His videos are
Yeah.
good though. I mean, the videos
Yeah.
are excellent. So
yeah, no, he's if any bands are listening and need photos, videos, our first music video for the next record has been shot by Joe as well. He is the fucking boy. We would pay him to come on tour if he didn't even take photos. So yeah, if you guys want any official photography next year, Josie man,
just make sure you feed him because he's a miserable bastard.
Yeah, you will. The best thing, you know, like, have you toured at all, Gav?
No.
Oh.
Unfortunately not. I do fancy it, once the journalism thing's done, I do fancy a wee bit of dip my foot into tour managing.
It's horrible, but like, it's all about, like, I guess same with the festival crew, like, about group dynamics. So Joe is the kind of person that will cause his own nightmare with his food and leave his laptop at home, or once left his shoes on the beach, and it took until he got to the services half the way home to realise he left his shoes, but won't then complain about that stuff. He'll have a laugh about it, and then we'll just be like, okay, this is the situation, crack on. And it's like personalities like that in your touring crew that make the veritable nightmare of touring like bearable, and people that can just, like, yeah, you turn up at a venue and you're like, oh, so there's no backstage, there's no rider, there's no crowd, we are sat in our van with no food, miserable, cold, haven't slept. It's people that can make you have a laugh and can help you to kind of like get through those days that are so integral to what you do. And like people like him, people like Dave, who's our lighting guy, and people like Marios, who's been doing sound for us recently, and like the guys in the band, like having that group dynamic that is just about supporting each other and kind of making that a focus of what we do has been so important. And like touring the US was when we really realized that there was a moment Connor had decided on this US tour to really like take charge of merch at shows, because being a bassist, he's barely in the band, so I think he felt like he needed some kind of
to make a stamp somewhere.
Yeah, so he's taken over merch. We're playing in like Mesa, Arizona, and we've decided we all want to go get food, so we've rocked up at the venue, loaded in, and Connor's sorting the merch out, and Dan goes into checking in and be like, all right mate, we're going to get food now, do you want to come? And he goes, well, yeah, I'm just like setting the merch up. And Dan goes, all right, and then stands there and watches him set the merch up, and we're all sat in the van like, fucking hell, Connor's taking his time, isn't he? Trying to go get some food. And eventually we get him in. He's pretty pissed, the fact that we're all just sat there doing fuck all, waiting for him to set the merch up so he can go get food. And it kind of like spurred a conversation about the fact that we do need to work as a team. And yeah, while there are people that will take charge in certain days, and some people like just won't be able to hack it some days, and you know, everyone's different, everyone's got their own strengths, but realistically we need to be there to support each other. And from that day, the approach we've taken has been way more kind of seeing how everyone's doing. Like if someone's having a bad mental health day and goes like, I just can't hack doing interviews today, or I just need to, after we play, I've had a really shit night, I need to go and sit down. Cool, like that's cool. Other people will take up the slack, and then when it's someone else's turn to like take that step back, we'll do it without, and you know, there's that bond of trust that no one's going to take the piss and everyone's going to kind of like get involved. So I think this is completely unprompted, but just the importance of having the right people around you when you're in those situations, and then the importance of then looking out for each other is like, I was having a bit of a shit time after the last Turbowolf show and didn't load out, and the rest of the guys did it, and I'm just really thankful that I know I can count on them not to be like, oh fucking hell, where were you? And like, you know, all of that.
That's great. Great to have be surrounded by the type of folks well, because I mean, I get a small glimpse of. I mean, if you have a bad Damnation, you get Marcus to show up in a bad mood, and shit just doesn't go right. It's a fucking horrible feeling. It's horrible. And I'm there for one day, don't get me wrong. It's a pretty extreme example. You get 27 bands come from all over the world onto you in that one day. However, when it's bad, it's really bad. You can finish a Damnation like we did in 2019, despite being financially and to the end very successful. It was terrible. It was like, I mean, Paul sitting on a couch at the end of the night, like, why on earth are we doing this? This is a terrible, terrible idea. You know what I mean? And then you get ones like 2 weekends ago, and it was a complete joy. So I could see the importance of having people in about you that you could trust and that you know could be there to help you when you.
Have you got the same kind of crew that you've had since the start, or like do people come and go a lot, or like how
it's bizarre. I mean, Damnation. I mean, people talk about it. It's a wee bit of a backhanded compliment insult. Like it's like your mates running a festival. You know what I mean? So it's not like you went somewhere and it's like vacuum and everybody's there and all getting on their jobs. We're getting more and more professional. I hope you felt it was professional when you played a couple of weeks ago. But those other than your £7 food token, but those guys, everybody that's involved, everyone that's wearing those crew t-shirts, they're all a collection of friends and people with a passion that we've just picked up along the years from myself down. There's no any hired hands other than the people that's their specific job, i.e. the fucking security or the sound desk guy or the guys that bring in the PAs and are fixing. Like, the professionals do the professionals. The rest of Damnation is a collection of people, collection of friends or friends of friends of just, again, that loyalty thing. We've got guys that just, even Paul himself, when I had him on the podcast, he said he'd done 1 year, he was doing a wee bit of running, and then the next year after he'd done artist liaison, and then he became an organiser. And that was just organic as well, because you need that, because you're not going to, no one's fucking paid. No one, like the guys with the crew t-shirts, they get a £7 food token, a free t-shirt, and they get a AAA to come in. It's like, there's so much money to put on Damnation if you start. I mean, Tangent do that as well. The Bloodstock do that with people going to bars. It's basically like, you'll get something out of this, but there's not going to be, if you want to come in and say I need minimum wage and I need to do that for 20 different people, you're going to start losing some bands off the bill. I mean, you're going to end up being like your mate down at Mammothfest saying, listen, you need to play for £50. You know, because it's not an endless pit of money to do, so you need a bit of trust, and you need people that are going to come and knock their pan in and do it because they absolutely love the festival, love being involved in it. And then their bit is like, oh, Jeff Walker shook my hand on the way up to stage and said thanks for a great effort today. Or Sylvain signed an album and gave me and said thanks for voting after me today. Like, they go away for that. As music fans going, that was fucking incredible. You know what I mean? So, I get that. The only difference between myself and you is I'm only there for that 1 day a year. Like, this is you're away on tour across Europe for fucking 2 months. You know what I mean? It's like, it's good to have it's definitely good to have people around about you that are supportive, as you're saying.
That was definitely the vibe with Damnation. Was like most of the crew, or certainly a lot of the people, I'm like, I either know you, or like I know you but I don't know you, or like I recognize you. And everyone was just really kind. Just people would go out their way to, like, it wouldn't be, oh, like, where's the dressing room? They'd be like, oh, it's upstairs. It'd be like, no, someone would be like, oh, it's upstairs, let me show you, and just like kind of go out their way. And it's one of those where it's like such a friendly environment for something that is clearly a mammoth undertaking, and like just the fact that people will take their time out to try and make our day a little bit easier when it clearly makes theirs more difficult. Like,
and there's something about that as well, that it's become, they're almost doubling down the crew that's at Damnation, because what happens is you get a few years where the bands be like, I mean, Memoriam shouted out the crew from stage, said the guys up behind us were, and one of the top of me and Paul, they were talking about Tom Stokes, the guy that was basically showing you where your dressing room was. These guys they will take you to where the shower is. Probably come into the shower with you if you want a background.
They'll take you back if you can't reach.
So, but because the guys that are involved with the crew know that, then they double, then they go that extra mile again. So, and that's great, because again, we did this at the start as a bunch of pissed up fans. I mean, we're always passionate, always paid, the bands, always made sure the equipment was there was going to be, but it was a bit fucking chaotic. I mean, right up to, I remember Dillinger Escape Plan being like, fuck, coming back to this, it's a fucking riot, you can't get anyone. The fucking organisers topless in the mosh pit, it's like a fucking... Listen, like, we're a professional band and we've showed up, okay, fucking, it's great to have a big crowd in the UK, but these guys are fucking mad. And then, so we get older as well and get smarter and learn the lessons, because at some point you need to admit to yourself that just being passionate and having a smile on your face is not going to be enough for Converge or Ministry or Opeth or fucking Mayhem. They just want the job done right, and you have to get...
that's the trick, because I think that when you get to that level of band that have played every festival in the world 100 times, they're not really interacting with you guys that much. Like, they're turning up with their own TM who is showing them where their dressing room is. Like, they're not out there talking to the local crew. They're rocking up, being handed a guitar, playing a show, and then going back to get drunk somewhere. Like, the bands that this actually affects are the bands like us, and like the more the smaller to bigger bands. And like, to turn up, even like the first time with Damnation was way more pronounced, but like to turn up at a festival and like be treated like a proper band and not just like an after, not to say that we've been treated as an afterthought many places, but it's definitely happened before. And that is one thing about it, is like, I joked about the dressing room and all that stuff, but like, that stuff's wicked. Like, it's a great setup, and luckily none of the bands we were sharing with were trying to party too much, because we're not that kind of band, despite the two anecdotes.
Take those lines! Take them! Like,
exactly. Never done a line in my life, but quite
surprise somebody did fire a line at you, fucking damn it. I've walked into some dressing rooms and be like, I don't even know what's happening in there. Like, just shut the door and hope it goes away.
Yeah, you'd catch us having a pretty strong debate about the different genres of sandwiches and whether a baguette is a sandwich or not, and that kind of real deep philosophical shit is where we're at. But it's just I don't like, what blows my mind is seeing bands that will like bang a load of lines or smoke a joint and then go and play a show, and I'm like, I've had 3 beers, I'm struggling to play guitar. Like, it's, and not even joking at this point, it is just really impressive seeing these bands that like party, and then we'll like party for hours after the show and then get up and do it again the next day.
I mean, it moved like take the drugs out of it, like, but the Raging Speed on that day before they played the Friday night, it was like they just spent the entire day drinking. And obviously a few weeks beforehand in Nottingham they had a bit of a fucking nightmare, and the singer Frank came over and button was fucking fire extinguisher. So I'm like, oh my god, please don't let this happen, because we have had so many near misses. We had the Bath, I mean, he was a riot everywhere he played, and we were like, just get the guy on stage, just get it happening. It did. Electric Wizard have been known to go, and 4 of them are playing different songs and they've always nailed it at Damnation. We're a bit like, oh, is this our year that we're finally going to get this? And the guys got up, they've got no idea where they are or what they're saying. But Raging Speed on, just, I think that's the way they play. Like, the way they played when they're 19 and it's the way they play when they're 39. They just fucking, that's where they are.
I saw my mum was at that show in Nottingham and was texting me about it, and I was like, fucking hell, what shambles. And went to a gig the other week and saw Ian Shaw, and obviously he's their booking agent, for those who don't know, and I was like, so what happened? And he was like, I mean, the promoter booked Raging Speedhorn, so like this is the thing, like, all the Skindred fans were outraged because they're used to seeing Skindred, who are like this well-oiled party machine, like super professional, know the lot. Raging Speedhorn fans were like, yeah, that's Speedhorn. like people that know. And like, when you have these bands that are like, part of the experience is the experience of the band, and be that drugs, be that Electric Wizard. If Electric Wizard turn up and they're not stoned, you're like, fucking hell, what's going on? Like,
would they even bother? Would they even bother going on stage?
Exactly. And so like, it's all about like understanding what you're going for. And the same as like different genre mashups, you know, if when we go and support Turbo a proportion of their fans go into it going, oh, we've heard this band are heavy, cool, we're into it. A proportion of their fans are like, fucking hell, this is a bit much. Like, it's the same thing with anything. So I think if there are, as long as you guys are aware of the bands that you're booking and like what can be expected of that, like we one of our first ever really cool shows we did, we played in Nottingham with Primitive Man and Sea Bastard, and it was meant to be in Sheffield, and the promoter cancelled the show like with 2 days notice because apparently they had put weed on their rider, and the promoter was like, oh no, we're an anti-drug venue and we won't do anything like that. And they turned up in Nottingham and we sold the show out with 2 days notice, and it was fucking great. And the band were just like, what the like, do you know who we fucking are? Like, the whole fucking vibe of this band is like, they just put out a post on Twitter the other day that was like, when we play, you smoke weed. I don't care if you smoke or not. You fucking smoke weed. Like,
and you'll be passively smoking weed time we're done.
Yeah. Like, and like, it just about like knowing your audience, knowing the bands you're booking, and like having a bit of experience. And like, whether you guys had that or whether you've grown into that, you're at the point now where you book a band, you know what you're getting yourself into. Like,
yeah, there's a risk. It's risk management. I suppose that's a bit about being a promoter. If you know that a bar's going to show up, there's a chance that he might walk off the stage, like literally fall off the stage. Try and manage it. Try and keep some of that rider back and say like, oh, here's all your champagne when you're finished. No, like when he arrives at the fucking. I mean, it's like, but some of that is just if they're gonna, the band's going to be who they are. I mean, I've been. There's a wee bit of, I think there's a wee bit of respect as well with Damnation. But a band like Raging Speed Torn, I don't think they'd like to come up and shit on Damnation. I think they want to be like, right, okay, Gav's went and paid 4 or 5 times the usual fee to get the debut album, but we're going to show up and fucking don't know the words. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, I mean, me and Ian Shaw would have had a conversation if that ultimately had happened. And they'd probably say the same, like, well, you knew what you're booking, mate, so fucking best of luck. But they've always been absolutely fantastic with anything.
Yeah. And like you go way back with those guys anyway, so it's that having that mutual understanding. And like, if we went and played a show with Nervous, a pop punk band in London, and like didn't do anything like that, but we did pick our least accessible set ever. Like, opened with like a fucking 6-minute Doom song off the EP, straight into Wretch. Like, just the least accessible thing we could do. And luckily, people were well into it. And it was like a really cool show. It's just all these kids like jumping and stuff like that. And we were like, halfway through, we were like, fuck, I wish we'd done this properly. Because
we could have picked up some
would have been a really cool show. But we've come in like ready to be all antagonistic, and people have been really kind. So, yeah, I think it is interesting that kind of like catering your show and catering your show to a crowd. I think it goes with like picking set lists when bands will, like, we played Doom over London Festival years ago, and like, we'll pick all the slow doomy songs. But I'm like, looking back, should have played all the fast ones, because people like, that's what, like, there's no point just catering your show to what you're there for. Like, be yourself, be your own authentic experience of your band, because that's what people want to see.
Yeah, and that's the way that Damnation's booked as well. It's like they're just, well, not even when we done the Death Fest, there was plenty of bands on there that were, that's not death metal. Why? That's the fucking point. I mean, I'm like 14 death metal bands. I mean, like, you're not doing any. You're doing a complete disservice to the death metal band, because you get so numb to it. And I found that sometimes just the noise you hear about Art Tangent, and I fucking can't say enough amazing things about Art Tangent, but see, sometimes that twiddly post-rock, see, by day 3 when you walk past the tent, and that twiddly, it feels like fucking somebody's doing that to my, flossing through my brain. I'm like, I can't take a single note more of twiddly post-rock. And like, imagine doing that if you, like, James would say, oh, well, this is what we do, and it's 4 stages, a twiddly post-rock. You know, it's a weird event. Desert, Desert Fest, it's called, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they've booked 17 venues in London and put on 17 stages of all the same bands, and people are going like, "Oh, this is amazing! It's the best lineup in the world." I'm like, "Ah, you're right, it is." But you're going to be sitting somewhere in London and having to choose between 6 bands that are all playing the same type of doom music. How's that good? Like,
what I did think about Desert Fest was interesting though. Like, I always knew it as like, oh, it's the Stoner Festival. Like, it's Stoner through and through. And every year they book a few bands, and I'm like, that's a straight up death metal band. Like, I just really, like, I've never been. I've only heard good things. I feel like trying to get into the Black Heart at any kind of gig is a nightmare, let alone at a sold out Desert Fest. Yeah. But I do really want to see how, like, I can't remember if someone like, I feel like they booked, you've booked a Blood Incantation or like someone like that, some like proper death metal bands for Desert Fest. I'm like, I really want to see how those bands go down.
But you know what I honestly would tell me? There'll be an extra pop for them, because you do get a bit numb to any if it's post rock. What's your favourite fucking band? You go somewhere, I get a wee bit at Roadburn. I think I caught too many sets in a row that were just that down tuned. I mean, almost like Conjurer, just. And you're a bit like, you know what, fuck, I'd love a wee melody. I'd love somebody just tickle me with a wee bit.
A fucking rest for a second.
Yeah, just give me something that's just a bit different. Whereas I feel like Damnation, that I'll walk away from June and walk straight to Man Must Die, and both feel fucking like it's the first time I've heard that type of music, because it's so fresh. I think that's why that works. So,
did you ever go to Temples Fest?
I did. You're the first person in the podcast to bring up Temples Fest to me. So, let's talk. Fuck it, brilliant. My favourite topic, Temples Fest. I did go for one day. I was down for one day, the day that Converge played.
I was there.
My daughter's birthday. I would have been there for the weekend. My daughter's birthday was the next day. The reason I'm laughing so much, is like Temples Fest showed up on our way. And it was like the first indoor metal festival ever happened in the UK. And then that kind of got our backs up a wee bit. But I was like, at the end of the day, I'll reach out the hand of friendship to the bold Francis, and kind of get snubbed. And I was like, okay. And then obviously I heard about all the bands, all the people who were never paid afterwards, and all the people left high and crying. It was like, well, you know what? That's what happens if you're not going to go in it with good intentions. But Temples Fest is. So I was like, but if you ever want to have a 45-minute rant in here, ask Paul about Temples Fest one time.
It's just really interesting, because like that year was, again, when me and Dan were becoming friends, and like that festival was really formative to us getting inspired for Conjurer, and like seeing Ohms for the first time, and Torch and Converge, and like a bunch of bands that I fucking love and have been. Celeste, first time I saw them, like all of that. And like that was one of the things on the bucket list was to play Temples Fest, like when we first started. And it kind of feels like,
well, that would have been a festival you'd have played for free, whether you agreed or not.
Yeah, exactly. But it feels like, to me, as an outsider and as like someone who was thankfully removed from the negativity of that, I just saw it as a really cool festival that I had a great time at with my mates. And then we technically played the replacement show for the year that got cancelled, so technically we played it. Yeah. But for me, Damnation is everything that I wanted from Temples Fest, and like it, I think it's benefited both festivals in a way, because there was just so much crossover in the kind of bands that you were booking and the kind of vibe of the festival. And Damnation definitely has, again, only went to Temples for the 1 year, and I've been to Damnation 3 times now. The community feel at Damnation is there that wasn't there at Temples the 1 year I went. But yeah, I feel like it's almost like this country ain't big enough for the both of us.
Yeah, it was a weird one for me at the time. Maybe I was just being a wee bit, oh, let's support the scene a bit, or being a wee bit just fucking, I'm quite a positive guy by nature. I mean, if it happened and it was in October, November, I'd have been like, fuck, now we're just going to be clashing all the time with every fucking band. But because it was where it was at, was it May or something that it took place?
Yeah,
I was a bit like, well, with touring, I'm sure there will be a bit of crossover. They might steal some of the shine away from some of the bands that if we book Amenra and bring them across, then they've got them and that kind of stuff. But ultimately, I was like, I looked at it maybe a bit naively just as a fan. I was like, that first year, I was like, looks fucking great. The kind of thing I would attend. I would love Damnation more if I wasn't organising it. I mean, I would I'd love to go to Damnation as a fan. I can't go to Damnation as a fan, so I need to sit and watch every fucking set knowing there's 10 other problems to deal with. I'd never had that the day that I went to them, so I quite enjoyed that day. I didn't think it was quite as spectacular as some folk have made out. I didn't think it was like it was reinventing the wheel the way that they believed it was reinventing the wheel. I thought it was a lot of good sets on one decent venue and a couple of shitey ones. But that was it. And then ultimately, this is there's nowhere to hide in this. In this fucking game, this industry, if you shitting people, it's going to quickly become. Even in, you might think that we're just a small wee morsel in the fucking music world, but everybody knows everybody. And what I was saying earlier about when Damnation wasn't getting the shit together in 2010, 2011, like Passion and A Smile wasn't going to be enough. The industry was starting to know we were losing out in bands that we would never have got to. Like, if we never got our shit together, we would never have booked Opeth. We just never would have been allowed to book Opeth. So, but we did get our shit together. We did become more professional. We stopped running a bit of mosh pits with our fucking tops off. So now people are like, right, okay.
Unless Raging Speed on a plane.
Unless we don't have playing. But that's it. That was the Damnation. I'm taking a pass on that night. So, like, at some point, and you have to respect, like, you might say it's all good intentions and it's all done and, like, everybody's going to get paid and there's going to be a good crowd. But some of these bands, as you say, they just want more. Their managers want more. They don't want any nonsense. Just, like, get it done, get us paid, put on a show that we expect and move on. And here we are now moving to Manchester, even trying to double down with that. We're like, okay, some of these things we'll never be able to provide in Leeds. We're now saying, right, okay, we'll try and do it in Manchester. So, aye, it's Temples is
your favourite topic. I love it.
It's like because it's one of those ones. There's just so much to say. And I feel like slightly like you. I never get stung with Temples. I mean, I never lost any money. I never had to chase people. But I know so many people that did. I know so many people that do have a bad experience. But when it gets brought up, I'm a bit like, fuck, man, that mad festival that was.
But that's what I feel really thankful that it was just such a positive thing for me, and like just getting like blowing the doors open to bands like Converge and like really that was the first, like, I'd listened to them a bit, but that was the first time I got it, just seeing them live. And like that Sun show, infamous as it was like fucking amazing. Like just like the whole vibe of it. And we were so green going into it that we just didn't know that events like that were a thing, or like that you could put on all of the kind of bands that we were like getting in. And like I love going back to old festival lineups of festivals I was at, seeing the bands that I love now that I missed because I was an idiot.
You think I love it? I hate that. I fucking hate when I look at it. I look at a Download or a Tea in the Park or a fucking Sonosphere lineup, like a band that I would literally go and spend £20 and go to Glasgow and see, that I never bothered walking to that tent to see. I'm like, bastard, what a terrible mistake.
Yeah. And that Guitarist in Sonosphere 2011 in like a tent. Didn't go and see him because didn't know who they were because I was an idiot.
Aye.
And like who was it? Was it fucking Protest the Hero at a tiny little tent at Sonosphere, and I queued up and waited for like 30 minutes at the wrong stage. And completely missed the set.
Sonosphere was, you made that thing with this town ain't big enough for both of us. That was a problem with Sonosphere and Download. Like it wasn't big enough for, and it's a shame too because Sonosphere was spectacular. It's like,
it was so good, wasn't it?
The smaller stages. Their smaller stages were fucking ridiculous, man. I'm still waiting to see 65 Days of Static play a tent at Download. I'm still waiting for... They had Rhinoa played in a wee tiny tent. And, like, Sonosphere, whoever was booking the guy Aaron Day, if it was him that was booking those smaller stages at Sonosphere, they were fucking incredible. They were Mammoth and Conjurer not before anybody really gave a shit. and like you had all them stuffed in the tents as well. It was such a good it was a good festival.
Yeah, like I first time I saw Cylosis was opening the main stage, and they came out and played Imperial, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, this is the shit."
Aye.
Yeah, just the whole like main stage up the hill straight to the second stage, like that whole layout was ideal. Yeah, I shat myself at Sonosphere once.
Well, we can wait till we stop recording. You can share the shit yourself stories.
Yeah, I will do one. It's not very exciting. I just woke up and shat. Wasn't even drunk. That was it. Bought some pretty sick camo trousers though to make up for it.
Cover up. Aye. Well, listen, I said to my wife before I came on, because I've only really just started the podcast back up and running in the last time. So I said to her, look, quick one tonight. Quick one. I'm gonna speak to the bald man. I'm gonna have a wee chat about Damnation, how great his band's becoming. But it's not one I'm going to really get into like 2 hours in or so whatever.
Oh shit, it is, isn't it? Sorry, mate.
And I'm a bit like, well, you know what? The big man's freezing there with his wee blanket on his feet. I've finished. The bottle of wine's done.
Oh, here he is.
My pint's done.
I've done my Diet Coke and a good half of my bottle of water. So,
let's be genuine about this. Isn't it the conversation? The alcohol was now done now, and I'm about like, let's get this wrapped up.
Oh no, thank you so much for having me on, mate. It's
No, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Because listen, I'm not letting, because once we talked extensively about Europe. We talked extensively about everything else, but I'm not going to be forgiven if there's no 2 questions I ask, right? Oh. What the fuck's happening with the UK? So is there going to be some sort of tour next year?
Yeah, so we're playing Radar Fest in Guildford, and then we will do a headline tour, I reckon towards the end of next year. It's kind of all like in the
stages.
Yeah, it's in the bullshit stages at the minute. But if we get the support bands that we want, it's going to be really fucking cool as well. So yeah, that's the goal. And then Arctangent as well, playing the main stage on that, which is wicked. So anything else that we get, if we do it, it'll be fucking wicked. But we're trying to keep it kind of pretty low key. That's
absolutely. Glasgow, just nod at me. Tell me Glasgow's happening.
Yeah, it's on the proposed routing.
Aye. So. Listen, Glasgow can't fall. I'm like, I will do Glasgow. See if Glasgow's not happening with whoever else, I will fucking do Glasgow. Okay, so I'm sick fed up of these tour posters that are coming out now that it's not coming to Scotland.
You'll have to fight Johnny for it.
I don't even I prefer to go as a fan. I'm not saying I want to put on a show. I'm just saying if Glasgow isn't happening, I'll do it. So
hey, the really fucking annoying thing about Scotland is that Glasgow's always fucking wicked. Like, great show there. I really want to play Edinburgh just to go and hang out there again, but it just doesn't make sense to do both, I don't think.
Well, do you see that Machine Head one? The Machine Head are going to go and do Glasgow, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, Inverness and Dundee. So
yeah, I did that on a tour once. It was fucking terrible.
Imagine. And I think unless you are Machine Head, it definitely will be terrible.
Yeah.
However, selfishly, listen, I God bless it, poor buggers for Edinburgh, but fuck them, right? Just get to Glasgow, and as long as that, because that Rollo to Massey tour with Pupil Slicer, not doing Glasgow. There was another one I saw the other day, it's not doing Glasgow. I was like, right, come on, guys, like Glasgow's got a scene. Glasgow works.
Were you at that Glasgow show in 2019?
I don't know why I wasn't, because I was a massive Conjurer fan at the time, and Johnny would have stuck me the list, so I have no idea what I was doing in that night that I wasn't at that Conjurer show, and I'm kind of kicking myself about it now. Do you know how naive we were in 2019 that thought this was going to happen every 2 months though? That like, I'll just get Conjurer the next time up, like 2 weeks time, and then we'll lost live music for 2 years. Like, God, I wish I was at that show.
Yeah, it was it upstairs at the
G2, the attic in G2.
Yeah. That was fucking sick. One of those where we were like all a little rundown going into it, and then it started, and it was like, why are there so many people here? And like they were like on us.
Why are they against my guitar?
Yeah, it was awesome. So yeah, I love playing Glasgow. It's consistently a good time.
Good. Johnny, dude, I'm going to have Johnny on the podcast, actually.
Good.
Have a
He's
chat
fucking
with him. Because listen, if you were ever going to do Scottish, like any more than just Glasgow, Triple G are the promoter to do it with. But as you say, if you're not Machine Head, are you going to get people come out to see you in Dundee? Unlikely.
Last time I played in Dundee, it was in an old converted church, and there were 2 people there. One of them was playing a trumpet throughout our set. So
yeah, I see that infamous picture where that band Threaten played, and the 2 guys sitting there.
Looked a lot like that.
It looked a lot like that. And finally, this is not the podcast to ask about fucking albums or inspiration behind them. However, this is a big thing for Conjurer. I noticed on your page as well, you get people terrorising you about the fucking next album. So as we sit here right now, what's the deal? What's happening?
So the album's been like completely done in terms of music and artwork since like March, April kind of time. So we've been sat on it for a minute. The way that I kind of came in pretty hot to Nuclear Blast saying we don't want to put the record out until we have vinyl, and launched into this explanation about like my personal experience when a record comes out and I've pre-ordered the vinyl, I've spent like 20 to 30 pounds on it and it's not arrived by release day, and I resign myself to listening to it on Spotify and I go, oh, this is great, but I'm not sat down with my proper hi-fi system with the artwork, listening to the record as I wanted to. And then it turns up 2 weeks later when there's already 3 other records that I have this stack. There's half of my stack of records that have turned up that I have not yet listened to because they haven't arrived in time for release day / life's just been a lot. So for me, as a fan of music, the experience that I want people who have been waiting for this record for a long time to have is that if they want to listen to the vinyl, it will turn up on or before release day. They can sit down with the full thing and listen to it properly.
Yeah.
Everything we've done in terms of releasing the record has been in service of that, and the label were like 100% agree. That's what we were going to say to you. So we were already on the same page. So we got everything sent off. We're waiting on test presses, but we have a confirmed delivery date for the records that has informed, choosing my words very carefully, that has then informed our release date, and that is locked in. Records that are being sent off now are not being completed until like December next year. We got in much earlier than that, and so our record will be coming out much earlier than that. Which I think is diplomatic enough.
That was about as vague an answer as I can imagine.
In terms of what our worst case scenario was for when the record was going to come out, this is way better.
Right.
And I think the actual product, the physical product we've put together is mint. And I think the record is a notable step up from what we've done before. So I think in terms of people that have been waiting for so long, like, yeah, I get it, it's bullshit, but at the end of the day, if we're going to do it, we may as well do it properly. And so it's taken this long to like get everything the way that we want it. And I think it is going to be the kind of record where people will have to sit with it for a decent amount of time to really get as much out of it. Like, I have been sat with this record for months now and really only just getting to the point where I feel like I really get everything from it.
Okay.
So it's much less immediate, much less, I think, commercially viable. But I think it's for people that have kind of followed us, especially like people that have been coming to see us for years and years now. I don't think anyone wants Maya Part 2, and I don't think anything about the band implies that we're just going to do the same thing we've done before. I think that even like me and Dan have started writing or like talking about album 3 and how that's going to be a completely kind of notable intentional style shift away from what we've done on album 2. Right. So there are I think it's going to be really cool, and I think people that like our band are going to be into it, and I think some people that haven't heard of us will be into it as well, but I'm not really expecting to turn any heads or kick anyone off the main stage of Download on this one. But I think if you're into what we do and if you like heavy music in general, I think it's going to be a pretty cool record.
Well, I'm fucking looking forward to hearing it. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys play a goddamn show that's not mine. That would be good. Get your asses to Glasgow. You've already, as you say, well, listen, you've already played the Underworld, and what was your other ambition? Record an EP. So that is sorted. So listen, mate, absolute pleasure. Too long before we got you in here. It's been great chatting to you. I'm going to leave you with a blanket over your legs in your mum's basement. Doing this podcast, no favours with the level of rock star I've got in front of me here.
Yeah, we'll tell you what. I'll come on again at the end of the next album cycle when me and my wife have our own place and I can prove to you that I'm a real human.
No, do that, just I'm not. And also, what I want to happen is like give me a schedule so I can get you for 15 minutes for the podcast. I want to have to go through a PA first. I want to have to deal with somebody at a record label being a bit of a cunt to me. I want that to happen first, and I certainly don't want blankets in your mum's basement. All right.
I feel like I've been put on blast here for no reason.
Yeah, listen, my dressing rooms get destroyed, so I think I want each on that.
yeah, but we'll call it a draw.
Mate, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.